Welcome in to the Gray Area podcast right here on Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts for free, appreciate you joining us on our interview Friday here on the Gray Area podcast. Of course, my name is Kevin Gray, host of the Gray Area podcast, and I'm so excited to be joined for our interview Fridays for me, one of the most entertaining, smart, funny, and just all around good people in the world. You can find her on Twitter at Kelsey_Charles. She is the co-star of the Star at Night with her good buddy, David Hellman. And she brought friends with her today. Kelsey Charles joining me right here on the Gray Area podcast. How are you?
I am so good. Yes, I have lots of friends today. I actually, this is my cat, Joey. If you're watching or if you're not watching, he is basically my child and my mascot. I am regularly joined by him on Zoom calls, whether I'm in class or work. So everyone knows who Joey is in my world. And then I also stole Dave's dog, Josie, last night when he was broadcasting during the draft. So he's just right over here. So you'll probably get a little peek of Josie occasionally throughout this little interview, because why not?
Why not? You're giving me Mina Kime vibes because, of course, Lenny, her dog, is always nearby with her when it comes to, what she's doing on a daily basis.
I'll take that comparison. She's a queen, so we love the Mina Kimes.
Yes, we love Mina Kimes here on the Gray Area podcast. She's also on Girls Talking Boys, talking all things Dallas Cowboys, and just all around good person. So I'm happy to be joined by Kelsey today. We're going to be talking a little Cowboys, going to get into all kinds of stuff here. But we're going to have some fun on this episode of the Gray Area podcast today. So let's just dive right into it before we get into anything like Cowboys, anything, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For the folks who don't know, how did you get into the sports media game, the sports game itself, and how you have gotten yourself to this point where you, of course, working for DallasCowboys.com, doing some really cool stuff with them. How did you get your start in the sports media game?
So I guess I'll go back to the way beginning. And I used to play sports in high school. I was soccer, volleyball, basketball, loved them all. I was probably the best at basketball, probably like soccer the most. So basketball was actually my first love, if you will, college basketball growing up in Kansas. So I was a big KU fan. Like Jeff Boschee was like my everything.
Wow.
He went
heard that name in a long time.
I know. Jeff Boschee, baby. Yeah. Like Kurt Heinrich, like Nick Collison, like that is my era of KU basketball. Anyways, I played soccer, like I mentioned, and I broke my back actually here in Dallas when I was traveling here for a Thanksgiving tournament. And so it kind of sidelined me literally and figuratively. And I decided that I wanted to still stay involved in the sports that I loved. So I found other ways like managing the basketball team. And then, I went to school at SMU, and I ended up getting into the journalism program because I fell in love with like this ethics class that I just thought it was so fascinating. And, because journalism was created as like the watchdog of society, and it's just all these things that I had no idea. And I also love storytelling. And so just kind of combined the best of both worlds, if you will, my passion for the things that I couldn't do on the field anymore. And then also just my inherent nature, I think. So I was a journalism major. Broadcast was what I decided to specialize in. And the Cowboys, they have a director of their videography, and he is an SMU alum. And he came and was touring the studio at the time. And I just said, hey, I'm going to work for you guys one day. And I really genuinely didn't let it go. I followed up with him a bunch, and I got an internship, and I worked for free for a while, a lot of weekends. Like anytime I wasn't in class, I was up at Valley Ranch, like helping produce games and just making myself useful. So I actually got my start in-game entertainment for the Cowboys, like the big video screen. And then when it came time for me to graduate, I was working an event, and I was just really working my butt off. And someone in marketing saw me, and they were like, hey, who's that girl? And it just turned out there was an opening on the marketing team. So I came on full time with the Cowboys, and I think it was 2013. And my responsibilities were to run training camp, run draft day, but then they also had an opening on Derek Eagleton's podcast, Cowboys Break.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl who was previously in my role also did both. And they heard about my background and they met me and they said, you want to give it a shot? You want to come be the email female? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Great. And so that's where my Cowboys Break experience began. And then I've always been one of those people. And if you're looking to get into the industry or any industry, frankly, I've never had a job that I have allowed myself to be confined by a job description. I don't necessarily believe in them. I don't believe that being one-dimensional is going to stretch your skill sets, going to give you unique experiences and all of that, or even grow. And so I asked for more. I would pitch them ideas. Like I actually was part of the group that created 5 Points Blue, which was the first all-female targeted website in the NFL. Like Roger Goodell there was a presentation made to him about it. I asked to host the Writers Roundtable. So there's just, I think that my message in all of that is ask, like the worst thing that someone can tell you is no. And so again, like, I think a lot of people know me because of my media things externally, but that has never been my full-time job. I always just did that above and beyond my actual 9-to-5 responsibilities. So if you want something, you'll find a way to make it happen. And that is exactly what I did. And the rest is kind of history, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because when you start thinking about people who are in this particular game in the media industry or whatever the case may be, I think a lot of the common thread is not being satisfied with the word no and figuring out a way to get to where you want to go, regardless of the circumstances, and being able to be flexible, willing to do anything. And as you were talking about, sometimes having to work for free and doing what you got to do to get where you want to go. Is that something that is just inherent as far as your work ethic is concerned, just wanting to just, no matter what, figuring out a way to get where you want to go? Where did that develop for you when it came to that passion and work ethic?
I would definitely say my dad. My dad grew up on a farm and small town outside of Ohio, actually super random. Dan Patrick, the broadcaster, was my dad's best friend in like first grade. And
wow.
Yeah, so like Zanesville, Ohio, if you've ever heard of it, that's where my dad's from. Super tiny town, like 45 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. He grew up on a pony farm. And he's just had this insane work ethic, right? Where, in his family, going to college wasn't a necessity. It's not that he was the first, but it just was kind of not a priority. And he realized that if he was going to create opportunities for himself, he was going to have to do it on his own. And whether that meant going to school and then going to graduate school. And then, I'll tell you this, like I really do think I got my creative solutions, from my dad. My dad is one of the smartest people I know. But again, like school just wasn't a priority in his family. So growing up, they owned like a tack shop, like a horse supply store, if you will, Western Outfitter. And so it's kind of the plan that he was going to go take that over. And he decided that he actually wanted to go into finance. And he didn't have a really good GPA in undergraduate when he went to the Ohio State University, the Ohio State. And for all my Buckeyes guys out there. But he literally couldn't get into graduate school because his GPA wasn't good enough. And he went to the dean and he said, listen, I will take 15 hours in like a full semester load of classes. You tell me what GPA I need to make and I'll make it. And I'd like to prove that I can do this. And they said, okay. And he did. So he literally did that and was working like several jobs at the time. And he was able to hit that like 3.7, 3.8 GPA and got into grad school. And it was just things like that, the combination of the work ethic and then also the not letting people tell you no. Like the door can look like it's closed, but if you really want it to open, even if it's not the exact door you're looking at in front of you, there is a way. There is a way. Like there is a way, I was out of the media game for a couple of years. Oh, there's Josie. And I missed it. And I remember like hopping on RJ Ochoa's podcast with SB Nation, come here, baby. And just telling him, like, I was like, man, like this was so great. It was so fun. And it kind of snowballed from there. And we created an opportunity for me and then ultimately Megan Murray. And I'm back. And it's just, again, like now I have a TV show with the Cowboys. I hop on with you guys occasionally. So I say all of that because I love when people tell me no. I love it. Like I didn't get into UT undergrad because I also struggled in undergrad. I tried to transfer to Texas and I couldn't get in. I'm about to graduate in 10 days from the grad school at McCombs Business, like a top 10 program, not only in the country, but also at the school that rejected me 10 years ago. Like, tell me no some more because I'll find a way to do it. Like, that's just, I have to like convey that to people. Like, it seems like this, some of the things that we get the opportunity to do is so unique and so cool. But I promise you, like, if there's something that you're passionate about, you can always find a way.
Yeah. And I think that is something that no matter what you decide to do, there's something that always fuels someone, whatever that specific thing may be. There's always, I think, that common thread for people to find that one thing that will drive them no matter what they're going through or what they're trying to do. And for you, hearing the word no means, all right, that means I'm going to be up to something really good, because that means I'll be in a position to find a way to get it done. I think for anyone who hears that message, that's amazing, because so many people go through so many different things and they've heard the word no, they've heard this, they've heard that. But more so than anything, I think successful people find themselves persevering through all of that and finding a way to get where they want to go. And obviously for you now, being back in the game itself, what do you love most about this media game that we call, and what you like to do, and what you want to continue to do with that at some point, maybe down the road, or continuing to grow in that way?
There's a couple things. First of all, I just love the interaction. Cowboys fans and just sports fans in general. It's this crazy uniting force. I love it. It's my drug, it's my drug of choice. And it's just, I love Twitter. It's so fun. It's hilarious. I totally make a fool of myself sometimes, but it's fine. Yeah. And honestly, I think one of the things I like the most about it is I just love connecting with people. I really do. It's one of my passion points. I like to say I'm a collector of people, and I've just been able to meet so many different people throughout this career and this, avenue in media, yourself included. There's people that are like your quote online friends, and then you meet them in person. You're like, oh yeah, you're great. I mean, I knew
it's the weirdest thing ever when you finally meet somebody that you like have followed or been following on Twitter for. That was one of the things that was so cool about meeting you for the first time. I was like, we've been following each other for a while. I was like, I finally actually met her in person. Same with David Hellman. Had never met him actually in person. It's just weird to actually put real people to the people that you actually talk to and follow, on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I just think, like, honestly, too, I think I also have a very much of a problem solving mindset. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit, but that's kind of like what I do with my career. And I feel like sports is one big, exercise in just that, where whether it's the draft and you're trying to figure out, okay, like, here's the puzzle pieces, here's the lay of the land, like what could make some sense. And it's just this crazy, intricate transaction, right? And that is so cool. Like, you have to try to put together the winning recipe, and you can have your opinions on how someone over here needs to do it versus someone over here. And they could both work in different ways, or they could both fail miserably. And it's just it's the greatest reality TV show of all time. And I love it. I mean, I love it. I can't stay away. So I just would say, again, like, it's connecting with the people. It's just the never ending nature of how crazy this industry is, and the sports world itself is just so fun to track. And then I also would say this too, I'm normal as hell, right? Like, I'm just, I know I don't have like a million followers like David Hellman does, but even he is just so normal. And I think one of the things that I've been really lucky enough to use my platform for, even if it is, not the biggest one in the world, but I'm okay with that. It's a small but mighty and loyal base of really cool people. We've been able to do some really cool things, like giving back. And that's been one of my greatest pleasures in interacting with this group of people. Like, obviously I love the day-to-day, just talking sports and stuff, but then when you see people's hearts and you see a call to action come out, like last year when we had the Alaska freeze, right? And I got wind that there was a women's shelter that the ceilings literally collapsed in. So like, women and children were just totally displaced. And we came together in like 48 hours and raised like $8,000 and had all of this, like this massive donation. Walmart came in. I had a friend who works at Walmart who, again, we met on Twitter.
Yeah.
And, was able to provide some donations just like that. And then like Ear DFW, like, we generate over like $22,000 of donations for these really incredible charities here in Dallas that are doing the really tough but necessary work to combat, quite frankly, the racial injustices that continue to exist and have existed. And there's just this massive disparity that if you don't know that's there, you would never know. And it's time to, it's like one of those things where like we opted to not just stick to sports and pay attention to those things and take our resources and do something good with them. And like that to me is one of the most rewarding things. Like I'm itching to do something like that again. I'll be honest with you. I have to like figure it out. But yeah, that's an ancillary reason why I love being in media, because it's created a platform to do some really cool things.
Yeah, that's, part of this whole game that we're in is that we get to speak and talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And some of that comes out in the causes that we support and that we start and how we can affect people outside of just talking about sports. Because I think one of the things I think is most genuine about this industry is that people are not going to necessarily remember the sports take that you have. Some will remember, but they remember more so the personalities, who you were, how you affected them as a person. And if you can have that effect on them, I think that's really cool in that way, to be able to share those kinds of things with people, because that's what really connects people together, is not just the shared love for passion in sports, but for things that really matter to people, even outside of those things. And for you, what do you do outside of the media game itself? I knew you were mentioning, the 9 to 5 that you do. What are some of those things that you do that really feed and drive that passion, other than obviously sports and what you do there?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with like my ancillary things. No, you know what? I'll start with my 9 to 5. That's the easiest. So 9 to 5, I work in sports marketing. And so I mentioned when I was at the Cowboys, I was in like sponsorship and event planning. So I ran training camp, ran draft day. I went over, and was on the agency side at a company called the Marketing Arm here in Dallas, where I ran a lot of properties for AT&T. So I started out doing the entire Pac-12, and then I also did Texas and Oklahoma. So AT&T Red River Showdown. All of the blue signage that you see on that game day, you guys, was Earl. And my goodness, that was a labor of love. But I led like the rebranding. And so anything and everything AT&T that was related to, whether it was advertising, whether it was a ESPN College Game Day commercial, and we had to get like mascots there. I was like coordinating with SAG and like coordinating with universities to like get, I had to get I'd get helmets in from Oklahoma, and then I had to get, the Longhorn up to LA, and it's actually a student. It's like I had to work around the student sketch. Like it was just like all of these crazy things. Right. And so I did college sports for a minute, and then I moved over into AT&T Stadium. Obviously, it was a pretty natural fit for me. I'm pretty familiar with the team. And I did Dak Prescott's deal with AT&T and DirecTV. So if you guys remember the spaghetti with ranch comment that came out, that was actually me, because I did a big content series with him and Scooter Magruder. And we were talking to Dak about like, hey, like what are, talk about your pregame ritual. And he's like, yeah, like, I mean, what's your pregame meal? And he's honestly like spaghetti and ranch. And I was like, excuse me? So I
remember that.
Yeah. Like that was like from my activation, which was pretty cool when you get it's like a collision of my, 9 to 5 sports marketing and my media side.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And then most recently, I worked in the nonprofit space and in sponsorships again, done esports. And then, I also was at Toyota doing their music festivals and, a lot of their multicultural work and sponsorships. And again, just making sure that investments were actually like authentic, especially when you I say play, but like when you operate within the multicultural space, it's really important to make sure you're not just doing it to check the box.
Yeah.
And like, I think a lot of companies are interested in being a part of that because it matters and they should be, but then the way they do it is a very like kind of cringy, like painful. You're like, ooh, like it looks like you did exactly what you did, which was like, just say like, hey, throw some money at something. But anyways, so now I work at a startup. It's actually founded by Jordan Spieth's dad. It's called MVP Index. And what we do is we provide sponsorship valuations for whether it's, I work with agents like Travis Kelsey's agent, and we look at like his social media, and we use AI technology to place a dollar value on the ROI that he provides when he posts for a brand. It helps the agents like price out what, you know, a going rate for a sponsorship deal would look like. I also work with big brands where we turn around and help them measure their campaigns or look at potential investments and what those, you know, returns might look like. Same thing with agencies and then also sports teams. So it's a pretty cool space to play in. The sports tech industry, startup world is so different from the big corporate space, but it's been really cool, and it's been a really awesome experience. So that's my 9 to 5. It's a very long-winded 9 to 5, but sports marketing, if you want to put like a blanket on it.
Yeah.
And then outside of my job, I am in grad school. I'm getting my MBA at the University of Texas. And
congratulations. Look at you.
Yes. So I graduate in a week, which is super exciting. Very, very thrilled about that. And that's just been like so awesome. I will say, like, if you have the opportunity to go back to school or just go learn, whether it's through, you know, certification programs, just taking classes, auditing classes, man, like just education opens doors. And it has just been insightful for me to be able to learn things that I had no idea about and be able to quantify some of the business decisions that you see being made in the world. It's not traditional to be in the sports industry and get a, you know, a graduate degree, especially in like a business setting. But at the same time, I know I'm going to be better off for it, and I'll be able to bring a different perspective to the table. So doing that. And then I also have my podcast with Megan that I mentioned, Talking Boys on SB Nation every Friday. And then I've got the show with David Hellman, Start Night with DallasCowboys.com. Might have something else up our sleeves.
Okay.
Yep. Gosh, I don't know. I travel a lot. I like photography in my spare time that I don't really have, but I do enjoy portraits. I like doing engagement photo shoots, you know, senior photos, things like that. So I'm always like out and about. I like
just a busy bee around here, just doing a whole lot of stuff these days. It sounds
always like that's it's a blessing and a curse. Like I'm working on trying to say no a little bit more to things that, you know, I've heard someone say this, and it's like, it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Like coming on the radio shows with you guys and like doing this, like I love this stuff. Like this makes me alive, right? But there's other things that I probably just need to be not spending my time on as much, and just like really honing in on the things that really matter to me. But it's a lot.
Like worrying about Bill Self and whether or not, you know, you can have, you know, a day with Bill Self, right?
I wish I had. I have like some photo that I had of KU that I need to find for you guys. It's like young Kelsey up at KU basketball camp, and I just needed to show. I'll bring it. I'll show you guys sometime. It's pretty hilarious. Like honestly though, like I looked like a dude. Like this, my dad like sent me these photos. Like, what was with this like short little haircut? Maybe that's why I'm so like hell-bent on having long hair now. I'm like, I will never cut my hair because like I look like a boy. Like, what do we do? I mean, I'm a cute boy, but a boy nonetheless. That's a boy. This is a boy, not a boy.
No, not at all. It's you. Hey, the reason why I mentioned Bill Self, because people who don't know, Kelsey loves Kansas basketball. Now, I went to the University of Missouri, so the fact that I'm even talking to Kelsey just shows you what kind of person she is. And how much I enjoy talking to her. But yes, you love KU basketball. Of course, they won the national championship. I can only imagine the joy and passion that went through you as you watched Bill Self and his Kansas Jayhawks win a second national championship for him, being the head coach out there in Kansas.
Yeah, the first time it was my senior year in high school, and I was working at a restaurant, and I remember the night. And I was so mad because I was like, I'm going to go to KU the next year. I went to KU my freshman year. And I was like, really guys, like you win like the year before I go into school. Like, come on. Yeah, no, I joke about this. Like I grew up on KU basketball just because that's where I grew up in Kansas. And it really was like the Nick Collison, Kirk Heinrich. You even had like the later years with like Sharon Collins and Marlon Palmers and like, you know what I mean? Like, oh God, what's the guy's Perry Ellis who played for like 50 years?
50 years at Kansas. Yes.
I can't decide who's played their sport longer, like Darren Sproles or Perry Ellis. Like it's a toss up.
Oh,
right?
Probably at this point. Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
But, it was just fun for me. And it's kind of a small world because my dad, he went and moved to Austin my freshman year of college and actually ended up working for David Booth, who is the owner of the Rules of Basketball. If you've watched the 30 for 30, and he's a big KU donor, a big KU guy. So it was like this really weird, like connection. And then what's his face? The Orange Bowl quarterback. Gosh, I can like see his face. He like worked for my dad for a minute at this, like in Austin, which was like so strange. Anyways, it was cool to see them win. I admittedly have been a very poor fan in recent years. But listen, like I love it for them. It was so cool. I obviously had to get my shirt and like my little championship shirt. Bill Self was my hall pass. So I loved seeing my boo do well. And yes, that is a real, thing with me. I don't know. I'm broken. I can't explain it, but he is indeed the hall pass for Kelsey Charles.
We have to find a better one for you because that's hustling backwards right there. Bill Self, that's hustling all the way backwards. We got to find someone else for you. You are better than that. You yourself should have a better standard than Bill Self. I'm just saying, just personally speaking.
I know. It's kind of weird. Like maybe it's because I work in this industry and like I don't get starstruck by players, but coaches.
Same.
Yeah. Like Larry Brown, when he came to SMU, when I was at SMU, it was my senior year. And I was wearing a red shirt and he was like, Crimson. And I was like, yes, sir. Like, cause I was, the KU connection. I was like, yeah, yes. Like, so I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with that. Who knows? I'll have to talk to the psychologist about it.
It's funny. This is very few athletes get me charged up in that way. Like I met Troy Aikman for the first time the other day. Like that's one, like I'm a Cowboys fan, of course, growing up in the 90s. Cowboys were everything for me. So Emmett, Troy, and Michael Irvin, like those are my guys. So meeting Troy, I was like, yep, little boy's going to keep it, inside, going to keep it, cool and collected. But on the inside, I was like, yep, this is pretty cool. Like meeting Troy Aikman.
I hear he's really nice.
He's super cool. Like he kept it real chill. I was like, hey, don't want to bother you, but love to take a photo. He's like, yeah, no problem. So me and Troy was great. So him and Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, those are my guys. So meeting them is phenomenal. But
I've gotten the chance to have some pretty cool people on my podcast or my show and my podcast, and I'm sure you're the same. Though, like it never ceases to amaze me, like how great a lot of these people are. Like they've reached fame, and again, like on a lesser level, I'm sure some people think that about like some of the local media personalities, but like Kay Adams is a great example. I'm obsessed with her. The same thing, Nate Burleson.
Oh, love Nate. Oh,
Nate
he's
Burleson,
fantastic. Yes.
Straight up, that man, he like Nate and Kay, like they like both like gave Dave and I like their cell phone numbers, and they're just like text if you ever need anything. Like I would straight up and they text back. Like I am nothing to them, like it's just like they're just good people. And I don't know, like I just think it's a cool dynamic for sure.
Well, speaking of the Cowboys, we can't let you go without talking a little Cowboys
I got time.
football. The Cowboys drafted, as we're recording this last night, they took Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle out of Tulsa. I knew you were going to pull it out.
My beat up real quick while we talk about this.
Yeah, exactly. So for people who don't know, Kelsey loves this time of the year, especially when it comes to player evaluation. She literally has, you'll be able to see it on the YouTube. She's got the beast, of course, from Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and she's gone through all the players, and I'm sure she's going to have a well-scouted report on Tyler Smith, the Tulsa tackle who's going to be playing for the Cowboys now. What did you think about the pick? Were you okay with the pick? Were you underwhelmed with the pick? What did you think about the Cowboys and what they did there?
It's very anticlimactic.
Same.
So when the Bills traded up, I was fully convinced. I was like, they're going to take a wide receiver. They need another wide receiver. Like that would make some sense to me. And they want to get ahead of the Cowboys because the Cowboys need a wide receiver. I was like, it's Sky Moore. It's got to be.
Oh.
And then they go corner. And I was like, okay, that's confusing. And then when we were up, I just had this like gut feeling, like you've heard that, that was going to be the pick potentially. And I don't think a lot of people are thrilled about it. I looked at his comparisons, like, Will McClay was talking about how he's really athletic. I think there's a couple things that are valid that a lot of people are worried about, where it's the most penalized team in the NFC East or the NFC or whatever it was. Like it did not a good stat. And then they add on a guy who has consistent penalty issues. You talk about upside a lot with him. I couldn't help but wonder if there was a bit of a Terrence Steele effect happening, right? Where they were confident in what they were able to do with him, and whether or not you agree that he's at the level that he should be at in terms of, talent wise and capabilities. Terrence Steele, I mean, it appears as though the Cowboys are happy with what they've been able to do with him. So I'm wondering why, I'm wondering if that's what they're trying to do here. If they think that like, hey, we did it over here, we can, recreate the wheel and do it again. My whole thing is it is a little unnerving, trying to carefully choose my words, to be using a first round pick on a project. And you know what? I guess at the end of the day, like there's a reason like that they are above my pay grade and they do the jobs they do as scouts. And so like, I'm going to trust in that, but it is definitely would not be my preference to be banking on upside when it comes to my first rounder. And I know the goal is to go guard and then move out to tackle. Eventually when Tyron Smith is going to be out of the picture. I looked at their comparables. I mean, they're pretty comparable in terms of just at least body types and things of that nature. The one thing I know you and I talked about that I think is going to be a very big sticking point too, not just the fact that he has upside that they're thinking about, but also the fact that we talk about position flex. And I think it depends.
Oh, that's Jerry and Steven's favorite words, position flex. Yes.
Let's talk about the last guy that came out of Tulsa with position flex. I feel like it's one of those things where it depends on where you stand. Like, what camp are you a part of? Do you believe that position flex is a positive? And when I say position flex, there's very few people that are Micah Parsons and Zach Martins of the world who can just kill it wherever you put them. Like those guys are freaks. That is not the usual. So when I say position flex, I mean like, you can check the box and like do it sufficiently. Is that a good thing though, when you're trying to, fill a role in the future for your left tackle, which, with a right-handed quarterback, arguably, like I know the defensive lines can behave differently and they can move guys around, but like, let's just face it, like left tackle will still continue to be one of the most important positions on the line. So like, do you want a specialist there or do you want someone who's more of a generalist? Is a generalist going to be enough to fit that bill and fill the shoes one day of Tyron Smith? So, I don't know.
Same.
I don't know.
That's where I am. I don't know, because I get where they went with the pick based on what he can potentially be in the future. But given the fact that you pretty much got wiped out with all the guys that you were considering there at 24, I thought going defense would have been the right thing to do with maybe a Devin Lloyd or a Nakobe Dean to pair with a guy like Micah Parsons. That's the strength of your football team right now, which is so weird to say that the strength of this football team is now on the defensive side of the ball.
So weird.
But it's so weird to say because that was not the case going into this past season, that we thought if the defense could just be average, this team's going to be really good. They were really good during.
Just give the offense the ball, get off the field.
Exactly. Like just get off the field as we want to see Micah Parsons play. So look, I'm going to reserve the right to be able to be wrong on this because I trust, Will McClay for the most part. He's done a really good job. Yeah. And throughout the years, they've drafted well when it comes to the offensive line. We'll see if this is another one. But yeah, definitely underwhelmed when the pick came through. We were at a draft party in Pluckers out in Allen. People were booing the pick. They weren't feeling it. Yeah, they weren't feeling it. And I felt bad. I was like, the kid's a local kid. Like he, Fort Worth, he's a local guy. So we'll see if it works out. But obviously as the world turns when it comes to the Cowboys and what they obviously do will always be a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Before we let you go here, tell the people where they can find you at, what you're doing these days, and obviously what they can look forward to when it comes to Kelsey Charles and what she's doing out here these days.
Yeah. Again, I'll be a little quiet the next week. I'll probably hop on with the Star at night. But I really gotta make it through this last 7 days of my school.
Yes.
But outside of that, you can find me. I'm on Twitter at Kelsey_Charles. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot. So, hey, Kelsey Charles, that's a good place to find me too. Like you mentioned, I'm on DallasCowboys.com. The Star at Night. It's a TV show in season. We're on Valley Sports Southwest. And then also SB Nation with Megan Murray. Blogging the Boys is the parent company, if you will. So just search Blogging the Boys wherever you get your podcast. And that's on Fridays. We've got James later on this week. And then, yeah, I like to kind of come crash on 105 Through the Fan occasionally and pop up in the studio with the guys. So hopefully we'll get some time to do that again here soon. And otherwise, I'm probably going to be doing some traveling, and that's where you can find me.
Nice.
San Diego.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Get you some tacos while you're out there. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Kelsey, this has been wonderful. We'll have to do this again soon because this was a lot of fun. And you can find Kelsey all over social media doing her thing. She does an amazing job covering all things for the Cowboys, sports media game in general. She does some really cool things, continue to do some really cool things in the DFW community. And she's not going anywhere no time soon. So you get used to seeing Kelsey Charles all over the place. She's not going nowhere anytime soon.
Right. That's right, my friend. Well, thanks for having me. This was really good. This was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining me here. This has been another episode of the Gray Area Podcast, our interview Fridays here. Make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast for free. Give me a 5-star rating and write a review for the podcast. And this will be up on YouTube as well, so you can watch it there as well. Kelsey, appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.